Hi. In this module you will install and start to use a project management program called OpenProj or Open Project. It's very much like Microsoft Project. It looks very much the same. It's not as powerful, but for our purposes it will do just fine. It's an open source program. It will install on both Macintosh and Windows and will be able to open files created from either platform. There are other Mac and Windows tools that do project management, create Gantt charts, reports, track, and so forth. And some of them are more elegant, certainly some are more powerful, but this one will do the job for us. And it's pretty decent for kind of creating the time estimates and scheduling that we want to do for our next module. This is the web page where you can download OpenProj from. You notice the URL at the top. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see it says Download OpenProj in the left column, and you click Download Now. Depending on your platform, it should show the appropriate download button. If you don't see that, click View All Files to get to the appropriate version for your computer. Click Download Now, and then follow the instructions for installing an application off the internet. When you open OpenProj for the first time, it will ask you whether you want to open an existing project, which you won't have, or create a project. So I'll click Create a Project. Then you give it some names. I'm going to use my my pie example. So I'll say apple pie. This other information you don't necessarily have to put. You can put the manager, you can put the start date if you know when that is. It will automatically start your calendar at a certain date. So let's say I'm going to put 5/24/10, since that's when the summer semester starts. I could add notes if I want to, but I'm just going to click OK just to get going. The first step will be put my major milestones into the task name column here. So the first one would be, for me, would be recipe selection. Next one will be ingredients. Serve. You notice that the program put in some default components. It defaults assuming that each row is 1 day. Defaulted that the start date was 5/24, and that was from when I created my project. I put that in as a start date, and that everything occurs in 1 day. Well, you can ignore these for right now, and we'll adjust those later. The next step is to add in our sub-steps or task under each milestone. To add my subtask excuse me, to a milestone, I click on the row below that I want to add the task, and I can right-click here where it says New, Adds a Row, and I will add Research. Research sources. And then I click in this row, and I right click again, it says indent. Notice that it makes the row above it a bold, makes it a parent row. It adds a little icon that if I click that it collapses, or if I want to open it I can and collapse it using the icon. And then I just add my other steps, repeating what I just did for the one I just put in. I've added some more items here. I've put my ingredients milestone. I have make list, what's in stock, purchase items. Under dough, I have 3 sub-items, measure and mix and form into balls. One little trick I can do is if I select all 3 of these and just do indent, it indents all of them and makes dough the master parent item there. One other thing to notice is that the duration for each of the milestones, major items, is 1 day, even though there's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days listed under here. You would think that this would add up to 3 days, but it's not, and the reason is that it's assuming that you're doing each of these activities during 1 day, everything on May 24th, and you're finishing it. So you could be spending 9 to 10 doing the list, 10 to 11 doing what's in stock, and let's say 1 to 2 going to purchase the items, all on the 21st. So the duration of the real time that it takes is 1 day. Later on we'll get in how to total up the actual time for these things. But these programs are forming project plans in order to determine when you do the job, and not the actual real time you might take in terms of for billing purposes. So I finished adding all my subtasks. So each milestone has a subtask in order to finish that milestone. I'm letting the default durations go to 1 day based on a start time of 1 day and finishing the same day. The next thing to add that will allow us to compute the actual time and hours that are spent is if I right-click on the column header and hit Insert Column from this dialog, which I'll drag up here so we can see the whole thing. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and click Work. Say OK, and what that adds is a column that is computing the number of hours for each task. It defaults to assuming it's an 8-hour day, so for 1 day it's 8 hours, and it totals up the subtasks, so this milestone we see is going to take 32 hours. I'm going to stop here for now. I'd like you to get this far in terms of creating your installing OpenProj and entering all your milestones and subtasks. The next video I will produce will be about how to then start moving these things into a schedule to determine the duration, how long it's going to take to do the project, and how many actual hours.